Today we're going to be participating in a lab titled Measuring Liquid Volume with a Graduated Cylinder. Go ahead and in your science book, you're going to start by filling out your title page. So here's a look at my title page. We completed this lab on Friday, September 22nd, Measuring Liquids Lab, and it's going to go on page number 5. Then in your science notebook, you're now going to turn to page 5 and go ahead and make this graph on your paper. You might need to pause the video now to finish this. We're going to go ahead and start in on the lab. Today our purpose is, as you can see here, to develop a skill in measuring with a graduated cylinder and to use the metric system in measuring our volumes. We have a list of materials. All of these items are currently located behind this paper, and a set of procedural steps. Step number 1 was to label each of the test tubes. That's already been done. And step number 2 was to add food coloring to 3 different beakers of water so that we have red, blue, and yellow. We're going to go ahead and start the lab, so I'm going to work my way through steps number 9. You won't record any of your data on the data chart until after we get to step number 9. All right, step number 3 said that into test tube A, we're going to measure 19 milliliters of water. I have 2 graduated cylinders here. This one only records to a maximum of 10 milliliters, so I'll have to use this one. One thing that I have to note on this one is that the grades that go up, I have to make sure that I'm reading it accurately. It records in half milliliters. For here, example, here's 10, 10 and a half, 11, 11 and a half, 12. So you can see that when I'm measuring this, I'm going to have to be extremely accurate. So 19 milliliters of water is going to be right about here on my graduated cylinder. So I'm going to put the bulk in as best as I can. And then I do have a pipette for fine-tuning it. I cannot stress the importance of accuracy. I'm also doing my best to record the meniscus line, which is that lower part. That looks accurate. So now in test tube A, I'm going to go ahead and very carefully, sorry, let me turn my test tubes around. There we go. Test tube A, I'm going to go ahead and put all of this in. I have to be careful not to spill. Then I'm going to move on to step 2. Step 2 said that into test tube C, I was going to put 18 milliliters of yellow water. So again, this one is too small, so I have to record with this one here. Using the same method I used previously, knowing that this has increments of half. So if this is 20, this would be 19 and 18 is right here. So now I'll add the rest of the yellow. And then very carefully taking my eye down to the side and measuring on the lower part of that meniscus level. And then of course that I'm going to pour into C. I have to be extremely careful that I don't spill, or it will completely impact. Next, I'm going to move on to step 5. Step 5 says in test tube E, I'm going to place 18 milliliters of blue water. So there's 15, 16, 17, 18. I just need to bring up that meniscus line just a tiny bit. And that goes into E. Step 6 says that I'm going to take from test tube C, and I need to take out 4 milliliters. So test tube C right here, I'm going to take out 4 milliliters. I think I'll use the small one for that. And I'm going to pour those 4 milliliters into test D. So I'm going to move 4 milliliters from here into here. The extra I've got to make sure I put back into here. And I've got to make sure that my reading is accurate. Okay, so I'm done with C. I'm going to place that right in here now. Again, making sure that I'm not spilling. Moving on to the next step, step number 7. Now I'm going to take from test tube E, I'm going to take 7 milliliters and I'm going to put that into test tube D where they will then mix. So again, I'm going to use this graduated cylinder and I need 7 milliliters. So I know from the video it's difficult to read. These large ones are multiples of 2, so there's 2, 4, 6, so I need to go right in the center, and there's a line that's just a little bit longer than the others, so I'm currently at 6. And the extra goes back into here. And then I'm going to place this and I'm going to mix it into here. See if I can do this in a way where my hand is not blocking that view. So there you go. All right, so it looks like so far I've got red on the far end. I've got yellow, green, blue. Excellent, it's looking good. So now from the beaker of blue water right here, I'm going to take 4 milliliters and I'm going to take it and put it into test tube F. So I need 4, which is going to be this line right about here, right about there. And again, I need to be as accurate as possible. And I'm going to look at that meniscus line. Looks pretty good. And I'm going to pour that right into here. Making sure to get every drop. Excellent. Now it says then, from the beaker of red water, now I'm going to take 7 milliliters and I'm going to also mix that into test tube F. So here we go. 7 milliliters. Almost there. Excellent. So now this is going to go into test tube F. And I have a nice shade of purple in there now. Doesn't that look pretty? See if I can show you with a little white behind it. See if that shows up a little better. I don't know. It's definitely purple. All right, so next I'm going on. Now I'm on step number 9. Step number 9 says I have to take from test tube A. So A is extremely full of red, so I'm going to take 8 milliliters of water out of there. So here's the best measuring tool for that. And I'm just going to move this a little bit closer so that I don't have to reach quite as far. And again, 8 milliliters.
Hunter Martinez, if you're in or around the building, please come to the office. Hunter Martinez, please come to the office. Thank you. Hunter Martinez, to the office.
All right, so that looks pretty darn good there. And I'm going to go ahead and dump that into test tube B. Excellent. And my next step says that I have to take from test tube C right here, and I'm going to take 3 milliliters from there, and I'm going to add it into test tube B. Again, this is my best measuring tool for this, so I'm going to go ahead and take out of there. And again, what was that number? 3 milliliters. So there's the 2 and 1 more. Checking in on that meniscus line, and then of course put my extra back. All right, so taking a look at this, so we've got a nice rich red, and next to that red, I can really tell where I'm sitting, but that next one, you can see it a little bit better, is a nice shade of orange. Then I have yellow, followed by green and blue. So I can see that those colors are just a tiny bit off on the video, but it's definitely some nice shades of those colors. So, oh, sorry, and of course that rich purple on the end. So again, I've got quite the rainbow going here. So that was actually what we wanted. So our last step is to go through, and each of these we have to find how much liquid is inside of them. So what we do is we place that liquid inside of our test tube, and then we record our measurements. So again, if this is 10, this is 11, I ended up with, I got 12 milliliters of the purple. 12 milliliters of purple. So that's what you're going to record in your science notebook. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to measure each of these, and I'm going to place those right here. So you should have gone through now that we've finished, and you've got your colors written here, and now our measurements go here. So I started with purple. So right here for purple, I got 12 milliliters. Then I'm going to go on to the blue. And the blue, I got 11 and a half. 11 and a half milliliters of blue. 11 and a half. Moving on to green. Again, trying really hard not to spill. And on the green, I also got 11 and a half. 11 and a half. Moving on to the yellow. Yellow, I got, let me double check that one over here. The yellow, I got exactly 11. 11 on yellow. Orange, moving on to orange. See if you can read that, a little tough. So on that orange, I can see there's the 10, 10 and a half, 11. Looks like that meniscus line lines up exactly with 11. Remember that meniscus line is curved, so that curve shows you the exact reading. And finally, I've moved on to my red. And the reading on our red is also 11 milliliters. So take a look at your paper. Did you remember to label each of your recordings? So there we go. So there's the completion of our measuring lab. I also refer to this one as a rainbow lab. Make sure that you see Mrs. Widman for scoring so that she can get this grade into the grade book for you.